Right. At Mila's shop, you can exchange gold gems for potions. Potions, almost across the board, make the game a little bit easier for yourself in some way, shape, or form, such as increasing your attack power, increasing your jump heights, making shields better, that type of thing. I don't really buy any, specifically because I like to play the game au natural. And speaking of au natural, this game handles its plot progression a little bit differently. In 2 sections of the game, you're instead given your pick out of one of 3 missions, and you'll have to tackle all of them eventually. But it does help you break up the action into its own episodic format, so to speak. We're going to be tackling things in order of difficulty. So starting off with, the museum gets ransacked for a very familiar robot if you've seen Freedom Planet 1. Freedom Planet 2 actually declassifies the name of this robot, if I remember correctly, because I don't think it's ever mentioned within 1.
There's been an attack on the museum! The culprits stole Pangu!
Pangu contains an extensive database of our history and culture. Much of its knowledge has yet to be deciphered. It must be recovered at all costs.
The museum brings up our first instance of a very particular hazard. See, while you are able to revive if you ever take fatal damage, and revive on the spot with a small amount of HP, this cannot happen if you get squished, or obliterated, as the game puts it. We're also introduced to one of the most annoying enemies in this fucking game. Flamingos. I have committed their name to memory. Flamingos have a bit of a peculiar hitbox. They require you being very tactical in terms of being able to hit them. They have 6 HP, and they shoot lasers from their feet, which are very damaging if they hit. I have been ruined so many times by flamingos. I've just committed their face to memory. I hate them. We'll be seeing this particular enemy a decent amount. They hang on the ceiling. If you can hit on all the nodes that are holding them to the ceiling, then you'll be able to knock them down and take them out instantly. Come on now. Also, this music is actually really good. Very playful, and it's a little at odds with the museum setting like this, but I can let it slide. I think I can mention, and I'm not 100% sure if this is the case, I think it is, but Havoc Studios' Dusky Umbreon, you know, lead creator, Havoc Fox, she did some music for the game, if I remember correctly. I think she also committed some sprites as well. Don't quote me on that. I'll probably, like, have an annotation in the YouTube version of this. Our mid-boss right there, the spider, pretty simple enemy. You could either deal a drastic amount of damage to its core, or you can go the slightly easier route and attempt to take out its webbing. The webs themselves have 10 nodes, usually, and they're not terrible to take down. If anything, this gimmick is reused for a boss fight later on, so commit that to memory. Whoop! Nice try, Flamingo. Not today. So far, so good. Yep, here's our squish hazards. You are given ample warning to get out of the way, but even still, if you get squished, you are not reviving. One moment. Sorry, family. They're gonna have to get groceries. Whoop. That settles you. And up here was an earth shield. Punch. What was I talking about? The usual problems of doing commentary. You run out, you forget what you're talking about when you're talking about it. Oops. Now, I guess while I'm venturing to this stage, just talk about the museum. Really nice sprite work here. Really nice atmosphere. The latter third of the stage is a little bit weird to me. I don't exactly understand the reason why we transitioned from museum to digital backspace like this. I don't quite get it. But hey, I'll just leave it as creative liberty. Maybe this is like the secret database of the museum. Ah! Get me out of the box! Just like within Freedom Plant 1, there are bricks of Yoku variety. But unlike Freedom Plant 1, when these manifest and you happen to be in the space that they're in, they'll instead cage you off, instead of pushing you onto parts unknown. Also produces very cute sprite. Nice try. That. Ow. On the bright side, the patterns for the Yoku bricks are a little more bearable this time around. And by a little more bearable, I mean they're a lot spammier. Egg! Oh my god. Come. Thanks, game. I'm trying to platform here. There we go. Mostly the reason why I'm doing this platforming is to get the metal shield that's over here. Never mind, I went the wrong direction. Oops. Hey! There's also our vinyl. I could probably mention that, for the most part within this game, elemental attacks are color-coded. So, metal attacks are usually going to be gray, like so. I want to demonstrate it. Case in point there. Fire is usually red, wood is usually green, water is usually blue, and earth is usually yellow. This isn't always the case, and there are some instances of green attacks that go through the nature barrier for whatever reason. As an example.
Trashed our house! What? That's... Oh, I'm coming right now!
Stay where you are, Carol. This one's personal. Besides, this situation needs a more delicate touch.
This is for trashing our house, you jerk!
Delicate, she says. The ape robot here has a personal stealth generator. This stealth generator lets it cloak up and then decloak just above your head. Part of managing this fight is making sure that when he comes back into the fray, that you're not getting hit by a surprise claw swipe attack. It can also launch out a volley of six lasers from its eyes. Not a terrible attack to avoid. Just be careful when it finally gets down to its last bar of HP. It's going to get a lot faster and a lot more frantic then. Ow. Wait for it. Done. You get an achievement for taking out a boss with the Dragon Boost. And demoing here, it's not that hard to get an A rank, provided you're not dying. Mind you, there are a couple rankings higher than A. There's the S rank, which requires you to get at least 125% for a bonus, meaning you have to at least have one Brave Stone more often than not to get that. Usually time limit is mostly manageable, but there's also a Rainbow S rank, which you can get by clearing the stage without taking a single bit of HP damage. That's incredibly difficult. I've yet to get it.
Hey, you've got some explaining to do, mister. Who are you? Why did you destroy my home?
You broke my buddy! My friend! How could you? We were just having fun!
That's what we felt like when you broke our house. Doesn't feel so good, does it?
Do you even know how long it took to fix the microsensor bracket? I installed a high-fidelity amplifier so I could eliminate all the IR interference and use it right from the control pad. And it had a flash mount and a high-data IR encoder and a microsensor audio and wide-angle reception and a bicolor light, too!
This is all jargon.
I couldn't even use it in the sun because usually IR interference is unbearable.
This is just jargon.
What just happened?
Yes.
Lilac here. Mission accomplished. The culprit is incapacitated.
You fool! What are you still doing there? The thieves are getting away in their airship!
What? I only found that out, like, right now.
Enough! Head to the seaport immediately! Move out!
Dummy, 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 dummy! You fell for it!
Hey, get back here!
The Tarz are there as one of our antagonists. The aptly named or Yep, that's actually his name. It makes about as much sense as you think. So getting into this particular stage, I feel like at one point in development there was going to be like an act structure to stages, because you can hear a good chunk of the music in here, and it's pretty similar to the lead motifs and bass lines used within the museum. Then again, it might just be that they did that specifically so they could keep the feel. Like, oh hey, this is part 2 of an episode, so to speak. A lot of design decisions tend to follow this episodic-like nature within the game. That isn't saying that the music isn't good, though it does let me talk about this as a subject, however. It's a very big point in contention that some people say that the music here isn't as good as the first game. And part of the reason that they give for that is there aren't enough original tracks. I understand that. A good lot of the musical tracks within this game do take after previous musical tracks. So, for example, Dragon Valley's Freedom Planet 2 track sounds a little similar to its Freedom Planet 1 track. A stage we'll get to in the future sounds a little like Aqua Tunnel. Yet another stage like Trap Hideout, etc., etc. For the most part, I want to say maybe 60% of the music is at least partially recycled from Freedom Planet 1. Part of that might be time constraints, but part of that is also, at least in my perspective, an attempt at continued world building. Again, on reminder, it's been 3 years since Freedom Planet 1 in terms of when this particular story takes place. So it kind of makes sense in some ways to use some of the same leitmotifs and musical tracks specifically to help convey that the world has been changing and growing in between Brevin's tyranny and Murga's. I do understand the argument, but just because the music isn't all original doesn't mean that it's any less than the previous version. If anything, I'd actually argue that in some cases it's a little more, specifically because it's attempting to do that world building. Is it for everyone? No. I'm gonna be full upfront on that. It's not. But just because it's new doesn't mean that's better. For the love of God, avoid these cannons. They hurt. I believe they do a full petal's worth of HP. For someone like... For most characters, that is hurty, but not terrible. For Mila, it's especially bad. Mind you, she's come a long way since Freedom Planet 1, where her HP was like 3 less than the rest of the cast. Here, it's only 1 less. But even 1 less is still a fairly drastic difference. Hazards can deal a lot of damage within this game, if you're not paying attention to them. Also, main gimmick of the stage, barriers which require you hitting their segments back into place. This stage only introduces this gimmick, it's used a lot more in future stages. It does lead to some creative design and chess work in terms of how to advance. But it can be annoying. Especially since these bricks are also a little physics-based. So if you have some momentum and hit a brick, it will go further than if you didn't have any momentum whatsoever. I feel like Carol has an easier time with them, specifically because her downward attack carries a lot of momentum. Ow. Also introduced in this stage, bombs. Get your lamp oil, get your rope. These things explode when they're hit by any type of damage. They also explode if enemies hit them. Woo! Get me a barrier, please. Thank you. There we go. These enemies we'll find in a few different places. They're bouncy, so you gotta be able to outrange them in order to actually hit them. As a result, there can be some frustrations in places where you, say, get pinned in a corner by one. And especially so when we get to the Battle Sphere. More on that in a bit. Because the Battle Sphere is gonna be very important for a few different reasons, one of which being another point of contention that I have with the game, and that many other people have too. Crap. Also, our boss for the stage. I forget the name of this enemy. I believe it was Falcon or something like that. He does a lot of sidestepping, creates a lot of fire damage hazards. If you have a fire shield, then this boss isn't as much of a pain in the ass. But in most cases, you're going to need to be a bit creative in terms of how you're going to broach approach. Take your time.
Pangu! Looks like she's been deactivated.
Whoa there! Throttle back, Tiger.
Hey you! What do you think you're doing with our robot?
With one exception,
Let me bring you up to speed.
meet
The
our
name's
boss.
Corazon, captain of the Sigwada and mercenary extraordinaire. In the flesh. That
Corazon.
Pangu of yours is a real sweet piece of hardware. You stole it from Perusa. We're here to steal it back.
I don't know what you're talking about, but there's no way you're keeping her after what you've done.
I figured you'd say that. Then it's time to kick the tires and light the fires!
Corazon loves her military speech.
PD!
She's also our first boss. She's also our dedicated end boss for the stage. Corazon does a lot of dashing around. Out of Murga's forces, she has the lowest amount of HP. But it makes sense. Her main weapon is her pistol. Be careful when you approach her. She'll be using a lot of the dash panels that Carol normally uses within Plant 1. You also don't get much HP for the fight, so make sure to manage it carefully.
Looks like someone's hankering for a spanking.
Pick your opportunities to attack her. At least with Lilac, you can really duel her dash with your own. Every other character is going to need to get a bit creative with their approach. With the exception being Carol. Ow!
You really goofed up this time.
Gotta keep moving.
Again, the exception to this is Carol, specifically because, this is kind of somewhat obvious to read from the first moment you see her. Try again. Corazon is Carol's older sister. I don't think it's actually explicitly mentioned older outside of additional reference materials. Damn, that was a terrible performance.
Pretty impressive. I actually got a little beaten up.
The mastermind, I presume.
Doesn't she look familiar? Hey guys, kept you waiting. Huh? What the heck, Corey?
Carol? Is that you? Well, ain't this a Charlie Foxtrot of a situation?
Clusterfuck.
Sorry, sis. Another time.
Corey!
After her!
Corazon gets a lot of crap behind the radar. She's also quick with it.
A decoy. Clever.
I also want to mention, this little decoy doll is adorable. I want one. I can't help it, okay? I like stuffed animals.
I must reluctantly agree. For a wildcat.
But look! Pangu's back! Yay!
I guess that's something to celebrate. Carol, was that your sister?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, I'm totally weirded out right now, so...
Sister or not, this was an attempted robbery of a major historical artifact on Shangtuzian soil. Airspace. Both. The Magister will hear of this.
Hence why Carol is weirded out.
The ports have been ghosted, milady.
Excellent. And the Pangu drone?
Too much downtown action. We had to jink out of there pronto.
Unfortunate. Remember, Feline, I cannot guarantee the safety of you or your family unless you have properly fulfilled your duties.
Yes, milady.
The drone will be ours, eventually. It is only a matter of time.
Yay! She's awake!
Scanning location. Good evening, sir.
Hey, the museum got trashed, so this place is your new home for now.
Get used to that being a thing that happens.
Now turn into a dragon!
Invalid command.
Sorry, kid. Her dragon mode had to go. Didn't want to scare the museum staff in case someone accidentally messed with it.
Boo.
Carol, you're the precise reason why they disabled that.
Lame.
I'm totally okay with that. I'd hate to fight that thing again. Though, I kinda miss riding it.
I've informed the Magister of today's events. That woman is now on the official terror watch list for all of Shang-Tu.
That's probably for the best.
For the best? That's my sister we're talking about.
The watch list is designed with the safety of Shang-Tu and its citizens in mind. Your frankly nebulous familial ties don't even come into it.
Whatever.
Carol's not exactly happy with it, but you can kind of understand why that's the case. Nira's trying to protect her home. In between stages, you can talk to certain characters, and they will present different dialogue than usual. So, case in point,